The subject of today's discussion is the Election Commission of India, which is one of the important constitutionally recognized institutions in our country. But before I proceed to deal with this subject, I want to say a few words, rather I want to make a few prefatory remarks about the elections and electoral systems in our country. Needless to add, elections are indispensable in any democratic state. Here, every citizen has the invaluable right to exercise his vote to select his or her own representatives. However, the method of election to all offices is not the same anywhere in the world, including India. The method of election of the President and Vice President of India is contained in Article 54 and Article 66 of the Constitution. The method of election to Parliament and state legislatures is left to legislation, subject to certain principles of the Constitution. These constitutional principles are: 1. There shall be a single electoral roll, meaning the official list of voters for every territorial constituency for election to Parliament and state legislatures. No citizen shall be excluded from this electoral roll on grounds only of caste, creed, religion, sex, etc. In other words, the names of every citizen of India shall be included in the official list of voters, irrespective of his caste, creed, religion, sex. Moreover, there is no communal, separate or special representation in our country as we found them during the British colonial rule in India. The second principle which has been recognized in our country is the principle of adult suffrage. It means that every adult citizen who has attained at least the age of 18 has the right to cast his vote to select his or her representatives. Subject to these principles, Parliament is vested with the power to make laws relating to elections. By virtue of this power under Article 327 of the Constitution, our Parliament enacted the Representation of People Acts 1950-1951 and the Delimitation Commission Acts of 1962, 1972, 2002 to prescribe the procedure of election and the formation and delimitation of constituencies. In conformity with these acts just stated, the single member district, the single member territorial constituency, the first past the post system has been introduced in independent India. It stipulates that in single member district, that is in a single member territorial constituency, voters can exercise their votes each, and that the candidates receiving the highest vote wins is declared elected. This is what is called the first past the post system. Now, the framers of our constitution realized that free and fair election is possible only under the aegis of, that is, only under the superintendence, direction and control of an impartial body like the Election Commission. So, we now proceed to deal with this important institution, that is the Election Commission of India. Now, my discussion is broadly divided into three parts. First, the composition of the Election Commission. Second, the functions. And finally, the role of the Election Commission. But in this lecture, my discussion will be exclusively confined to the composition aspect only. Needless to mention that this Election Commission is a new institution in independent India. There was no such body during the period of British colonial rule in India. So, in order to understand this aspect, we must take into consideration the minds of the makers of the Constitution, what they really wanted about this independent, impartial body. Firstly, they decided an independent, impartial body like the Election Commission so that it can function or it can conduct elections freely and fairly without any interference from the executive. It will not be subservient to the executive. That is the framers wanted. Secondly, although India was to be a federal state, the need for a separate state election commission was ruled out. That is, there will be only one institution, single election commission to conduct elections for parliament as well as state legislatures. Thirdly, the framers of the constitution wanted the election commission to be a permanent body and not an ad hoc one. And finally, particularly whether the election commission will be a single member or multi-member body. Here, the members of the Constituent Assembly favored a flexible approach. They wanted a chief election commissioner at the head of the election commission. They also suggested that there may be a number of election commissioners if felt these to be necessary at all. So, keeping all these points in mind, I now refer to the constitutional provisions and parliamentary acts. Let me refer to Article 324 to 329A of the Constitution. In Part 15 of our Constitution, in other words, in Part 15 from Article 324 to 329A, deal with the different aspects of election and election-related matters, including election commission. Of these articles, Article 324 is the most important because this article, that is Article 324, deals with the composition and functions of the Election Commission. Now, this article has to be read with some parliamentary acts like Representation of People Acts or the Delimitation Commission Acts already stated earlier. Now, let me refer to Article 324, Clause 2 of the Constitution, which is concerned with the composition of the Election Commission. It lays down that the Election Commission of India consists of the Chief Election Commissioner and such number of other election commissioners as the President may from time to time fix, and the appointment of the Chief Election Commissioner and other election commissioners shall be made by the President. So from this provision it is clear that the number of other election commissioners has not been fixed by the makers of the Constitution. They wanted the executive to decide, the government to decide, the number of other elections commissioners to be appointed, or at all they are to be appointed or not. In fact, since the establishment of the Election Commission on January 25th, 1950, that is only a day before the inauguration of the Constitution, the Election Commission was established. Now, since then, for about 4 decades, the Election Commission was a single-member body with the Chief Election Commissioner as the head. And there were no other election commissioners, only the Chief Election Commissioner. In 1989, to be more specific, on 16th October 1989, the Rajiv Gandhi government decided to appoint 2 other election commissioners in addition to the Chief Election Commissioner. So, in 1989, in late 1989, the Election Commission became a 3-member body. But that was for a very brief period, only for 2.5 months. In January 1990, the new government, new National Front government headed by Vishwanath Pratap Singh, decided to terminate the services of 2 other commissioners, 2 other election commissioners. So the Election Commission became again a single-member body. However, this arrangement continued for 3 years only because in 1993, the Congress I government under the leadership of Narasimha Rao again decided to appoint 2 other election commissioners. Since then, the Election Commission has been a 3-member body. Now, about the appointments of these election commissioners, it is often criticized. Critics often point out that this method of appointing the election commissioners by the executive, by the President, is partisan in nature, because the persons close to the ruling party are expected to be appointed as Chief Election Commissioner and other election commissioners. So it has been suggested again and again that an impartial body to be formed, an impartial committee to be formed, which will be entrusted with the duty to recommend the names of the election commissioners. So it is suggested that a 3-member committee comprising the Prime Minister of India, the leader of opposition in the Lok Sabha, and the Chief Justice of India will still recommend the names of the election commissioners to the President. It may be pointed out here that the tenure of the election commissioners has been laid down in a parliamentary act. In fact, the parliamentary act passed in 1991 changed the tenure of the election commissioners. Earlier it was 5 years, now it is 6 years from the date of appointment, or up to the age of 65 years, whichever is earlier. At the time of establishment in January 1950, the Election Commission was manned by insufficient staff. A separate secretariat of the Election Commission was set up in New Delhi. The position now has changed gradually. We find that election commissioners are now assisted by 2 or 3 deputy election commissioners. The directors, deputy directors, principal secretaries, secretaries, undersecretaries, and others assisted these 2 or 3 deputy election commissioners. At the state level also, we find chief electoral officer. At the district level, we find district election officers, election registration officers, and returning officers, even at the constituency level. In a word, there is now a widespread network of central, state, and district officials, electoral officials. So let me sum up now. I first pointed out some of the constitutional principles which are essential for understanding the elections and electoral system. Then I tried to analyze the functions of the election commissions, and primarily I focused on Article 324, Clause 2 of the Constitution, which exclusively deals with the composition of the election commission. Initially it was a single member body. Subsequently, particularly since 1993, the election commission is now a 3-member body with the chief election commissioner and 2 other election commissioners.